My name is Alex Howard. For nearly 20 years, I've been a therapist here in London. I am deeply passionate about helping people make real, positive change in their lives. Having been through therapy myself at different stages of my own life, I know how transformative it can be. That's why I started In Therapy, a series that follows the stories of brave participants as they go on therapeutic journeys with me. Join us as we go behind the scenes as people grapple with issues like depression, anxiety, and chronic illness, and join my mission to break the stigma around mental health and asking for help. This is In Therapy with me, Alex Howard. Hi, Lauren. I've been wondering, how have you been doing? A lot was going on last time we spoke.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a lot brighter in the background now. The sun's shining here.
So
which
you're
is really good.
You're clearly not in England.
No, I'm not in the UK. Most stressful few weeks I think I've ever gone through in my life, packing up my house and renting it out and everything. But actually the best thing that I've done, best decision I've made this year by far.
That's great. I'm so pleased that it's worked out. And last time, say that again.
I went to gym today with my first gym session in like about 2 years.
Wow. How was that?
I mean, I took it very gently. I didn't really do much. I just kind of like walked around and let myself get overwhelmed by all the things I can't do anymore. But yeah, I follow like a specific protocol for strengthening my core and everything. So I just did some of the weights from that protocol.
But just the very fact of going to a gym, like that alone must have been a big thing for you.
Yeah, totally huge. I mean, I drove. It's about a 20-minute walk, but I'm on the top of a hill, and it's like a 10-minute very steep decline to the beach, but then very steep incline as well to get home. So, and then another the walk along the beach and everything. It's about 20 minutes in total, and I know 40 minutes walk. That's a workout for me. Sure. So I do cheat. I did cheat and I drove.
I don't think it's cheating. I think actually what it is it's listening to your body and living the principles of what you've been learning, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact you're going to the gym is obviously a promising sign, but in terms of your energy and that side of things, how has that been?
It's up and down. It's very much like, I physically dictated to me to what I can do, so I can do stuff, and then my glands go up, and like the chronic fatigue kind of feeling sinks in again. I'm quite fit at the moment, as I'm getting quite fit, walking fit, not like running fit or anything. I'm not going to run a marathon again in my lifetime, I don't think, but not that I ever ran one anyway. But I can walk up hills now. I have to, because if I want to go to the beach, it's a really steep hill and steps and stuff. At first I was really daunted by it, and then I ended up realizing every day it was getting easier.
So what's interesting is as you're challenging your body to do things, whereas before it might have just gone deeper into a crash, what's actually happening is it's responding in a positive way to the challenge, and actually you're growing your capacity. So you're underlying everything, there is ultimately energy and health that is there.
Do you know what it is? I was so bogged down. I mean, I look back at this year and it just seems like such a dark, miserable place. So I was in complete denial about what I was coping with and what was important, hanging on to this house, getting into more debt. The financial burden of that I don't think I realized how much of a psychological drain that was having on me. having the 2 dogs and trying to look after a puppy that was full of energy that was too big for me, like that was a big drain. Like all these kind of like, I know you talked about before, like these like energy holes that were just in my life, you know. And I've removed pretty much everything now. Now it's just me. I've got
just you.
It's just me. I've got one very well behaved dog who is zero trouble whatsoever. I have a couple of friends who've been away for the last 2 weeks, and so, you know, it's pretty much just me, myself, and I. And and I'm doing my work, and that's great, and I'm doing my 4 days a week, but that's all I'm having to do, and it's freeing me up. The mental freedom is freeing me up physically as well.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, when just before this I was having a nap on the sofa. It's not like I can go to gym and then, you know, go down to the bar or restaurant or something. I've gone to gym, I closed the curtains on a beautiful sunny day and put a DVD on, because, well, not DVD but Netflix, because that's the price I need to pay to have that level of exercise.
But ultimately it sounds like you're working in partnership with your body as opposed to against your body. So when there's energy, you're able to do something with the energy. And when it's time to rest, you're also able to listen and to rest. And it sounds like the general direction is that your energy is growing and is increasing.
It's definitely growing. I was really struggling with sleep, and it got worse. And when I arrived in Spain, it was at its complete worst. I was getting maybe 2 hours a night sleep if I was lucky, but really anxious, horrible, trying to sleep, horrible thing. Poor Lottie's never had so many 5 a.m. in the morning walks before. she was so tired through that stage, because I was kind of keeping her up. The poor dog was just like, didn't want to go for a walk the next day. She was so tired. And then I started, like, I know that there's a physical component to my insomnia, but my mental component had like just taken it and run, you know, and turned it into this huge issue. And I had to really go back to basics. And I did a bit of online CBT, which is something called Sleepio, which you can get by the NHS. And I had to really, you know, just take a bit of time to just focus on my psychological like relationship with sleep.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to do it, because usually when I have such bad insomnia, it turns into like a massive saga. But I actually did. Within about 3 weeks, I've managed to get myself into a good pattern again.
That's great.
It's not the healthiest pattern. It's like go to bed at 1 a.m. and wake up at 10. But, you know, it's the Spanish way, and it works with what my body does. My body takes a long time to fall asleep, and then once it's asleep, I can sleep, you know. But getting me to sleep. So actually, this kind of climate and this kind of way of life has weirdly helped my body get into a sync.
Right. I mean, one of the ways that I always think about sleep is a natural state, right? It's like, we don't need to do anything to get to sleep. We have to get out of the way of the things that are getting in the way of going to sleep. And so it's not, people are like, teach me how to get to sleep. It's like, I can't teach you how to sleep, but it's like, let's understand the ways that you are sort of disrupting that natural process. And a lot of that in time becomes the anxiety about not sleeping. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of wondering how that piece has been, like, in the anticipation of going to bed and like through the evening, like where was that, and where is that now?
It was in such a bad place. I tried diazepam. I tried sleeping tablets. Like, you know, my doctor gave me, before I left, had given me kind of a bunch of stuff because I was really struggling, and it was making me worse. I was like, I'm the only person in the world that was taking a sleeping tablet and diazepam and was like making me even more wide awake. And I realized it was because the pressure to sleep after you've taken the medication is even higher. And if your body's in that fight or flight mode, it's kind of it almost triggered more of a fight or flight response, because I was trying to force my body to sleep, to calm down when it didn't want to calm down. Maybe if I had a higher dose of diazepam anyway, I had the complete opposite effect. So I kind of had to, I stopped bothering with that. But the anxiety, I would start thinking about sleep at like 9, because in my mind, I'm like, you have to go to bed at 10, right? That's, 10 o'clock's a good time to go to bed. And by 9, the physical anxiety, like would kick in.
And what would be some of the mental anxiety patterns? Like, what would be some of the thought patterns?
It was both. So it was like the mental. The minute I thought like, oh, I would say to myself, I'm going to sleep tonight. As soon as I said I'm going to sleep tonight, it was like my whole body would go, and then my mind would start going, but are you going to sleep tonight? You know, what happens if you don't sleep? And it was like this thing, but I realized after a while that actually I was on holiday. My mind was able to calm down, but I built such a physical response. So the physical response was then kicking in, which was then making my mind worry.
You're
and
responding to the physical response.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't the other way around. I'd be so relaxed. I'd have had a nice meal. I'd had a lovely day in the sun. I'd be so ready for bed. And then this like wave of anxiety would come up. And then my mind would go, oh, here we go. And I kept trying to fight it because I kept trying to go to bed, try to go to sleep, try to go to bed. Eventually, the first night I managed to get some sleep. I decided I wasn't going to go to bed. I was going to stay up. I was staying in an apartment with friends. I was just going to stay up and watch TV, and I was not going to force myself to go to sleep. If I fell asleep, I fell asleep. And I had this wrote down like, you know, the thought patterns, like, you know, I'm not going to sleep. Well, so what? You don't sleep anyway, and you still function the next day. Like I always function on no sleep. I can function on so little sleep. People don't believe me, but I really can.
Years of practice back in the day when you pushing through everything, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I could be a bit slow and a bit clumsy, but I can function. So why I get myself into such a state? Anyway, and that night I just was like, fell asleep.
Yeah, so you took away the anxiety about not sleeping.
Yeah, and now I don't let myself
took the charge out of the anxiety about not.
Yeah,
it might have still been there, but you weren't sort of getting caught in a sort of stress pattern response to it.
Yeah, what I've learned, and I think what's being on holiday, number one, and also just having this different pace of life, is not to have a routine. I must go to bed at 10 or to wake up at this time. It is go to bed when I'm tired. Go to bed when I'm tired. If it's 3 o'clock and I have to wake up at 9 and I get 6 hours sleep, it's still better than lying awake and feeling anxious, whatever. So that seems to be helping. And I don't sleep through the night. I'm still not a great sleeper. I'm waking up lots. You know, I have to breathing exercises to get back to sleep and all that. So I wouldn't say I'm getting like a nice 8 hours. I'm probably getting like a nice 5 hours and then 3 hours really broken. But I'll take any of that over that, like still being wide awake at 4 o'clock in the morning with all that anxiety.
And do you feel like the sleep is gradually improving? Like if you look sort of week on week, that 5 hours and 3 hours is starting to move towards 5.5 and 2.5. Like, can you see the sort of trend in that direction?
The trend is definitely improving. The issue that I have is that I tend to get a bit lazy. I want to say lazy because I don't think I'm a lazy person as such, but I get a little bit less diligent in all my rules. But then I find it very hard also to just be so strict all the time, because I find that creates stress in itself. And so it's the balance of doing the right things to help with my sleep, but without creating like too many rules that you break one rule and then you panic.
I think it's a really important balance, because the more pressure, as you described with the sleep medication, the more pressure you feel to sleep, the more tight and rigid your system gets, the harder it is to sleep. Because as I was saying, sleep is a natural process of surrender and letting go. Like ultimately when we go to sleep, we're surrendering to just sleeping. The more things in the way of that, the more we're trying, the more we're efforting, the more pressure we feel, actually we're getting further from sleep rather than closer to sleep. But equally, you want to have in place the right supports and the right parameters that allow your system to relax. And so it's finding the strategies and the tools that create a space that allow things to settle, but holding them lightly enough that it doesn't become then a source of pressure and a source of stress.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's kind of exactly what kind of describes my life. Really, that like creating so many pressures on myself that I forget how it is to even be happy or content, because I'm just putting pressure on myself to tick all these boxes and stuff. And it's fun as I'm letting go of all that materialistic and all those pressures upon myself. Gradually, my sleep is also improving.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And last time we spoke, you were having some investigations in terms of health. How did that all play out?
Well, I'm still waiting on a surgical biopsy. Not great, actually. I thought, I kind of hoped it wasn't going to be anything too serious, but it ended up showing something quite worrying in the MRI. I didn't want to go back to the UK because of the quarantine. So I'm actually seeking private treatment now. And yeah, but it's just taken a while. It's taken a while to get the NHS to release all my scans and stuff to the Spanish hospital that I'm going through. And then there'll be a surgical biopsy, and then there'll be surgery, a big operation at some point. But I want to get it done this year, but I'm not going to let myself worry and stress about it. There's nothing I can do. And B, like, just not let myself, I think I said not get stressed about it, A, but the second one, just kind of try to get it done this year, but not try to force it to happen. It will happen. When I first got the results, I was in a bit of a panic because I just arrived in Spain. I'd been here for like a week, got the call from the NHS telling me I had to come back. So obviously I had a bit of a week of being like, God, what do I do? What do I do? And then I just thought, I haven't just packed up my life and gone through hell to get here, to then pack everything back up and go back. Sure. So this is one time in my life I think a credit card is a good investment, good time to use it. And
what's the ultimate prognosis? It's that you have to have surgery, but then it's a relatively neat resolution. Is that the expectation?
Yes. So they don't. It's very mixed on who you speak to. The NHS are telling me it looks cancerous. My oncologist here is saying it doesn't look like it's cancer, but there's definitely something quite serious going on. So once they've done the surgical biopsy, because they couldn't get to where they need to get to without doing that. Once they've done surgical biopsy, they'll know for sure, and then they'll know what the other treatments are. Like if I need continuous treatment, then obviously I'll probably go back to the UK. Okay. If it's something that's just like, a simple surgery, then I'll stay here.
But they think it's contained in one location effectively.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
But yeah, I have a habit of getting myself really kind of like worked up about stuff. So I'm trying hard. After my first week of running around like a tiz in a panic, I'm like, okay, look, I'm a step closer to being where I want to be, which is actually getting my implants removed. Yeah. Which is good because they'll do that anyway.
I was going to say, as part of the surgery, they'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So need some lymph nodes removed, and then they'll, the implants will come out, because it's just confusing. It creates a lot of confusion when you have issues going on to have implants anyway. So they will take them out for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
I'm mindful of time, but do you have specific questions today?
I don't think I have any questions. I'm wondering how long we're going to do these for. I'm very conscious that this is a little bit of the honeymoon period. I've always been very good at change, right. And then actually reality of whatever the reality is going to be, which I hope it's not going to be like that, because it is a very good lifestyle out here. But there are elements to it that are challenging, not speaking the language. Yeah. Although I've started Spanish lessons, so I am learning, but I'm in a very Spanish area of Spain. You know what I mean? Like, there's hardly any English people around me other than a couple of people I know from before. So it could get quite lonely, which is at the moment amazing. I'm loving not speaking to anybody or seeing anybody really. Totally realized my introverted self. But yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to keep being like that, or if I'm going to get to a point where I start missing.
Well, the thing that I would say is, as the honeymoon settles, it becomes all the more important to keep using the tools that you've got, right? So there might have been a bit of a period of time where you've just sort of been enjoying the sort of relief of kind of getting out of the madness of the sort of move, and then just sort of relaxing into where you are. But don't underestimate the importance of getting in place your routine, the techniques, coming back to what you need to be doing in terms of calming and settling your system. And that then becomes the support and the foundation in the midst of the fact that you're in unfamiliar surroundings, and it might be a bit bumpy and a bit unsure. So making sure you have those things in place to support you, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I am finding more space to do yoga and meditation, which is good.
Yeah, good. Well, look, I'm glad to hear, obviously last time things have been pretty challenging for a while. I'm really pleased to hear that the move feels positive, and I absolutely hear that it's only just started, and there probably are some challenges and bumps to come, but remember the tools, the support that you've got, the things that you've learned to hold you through that. And then I look forward to talking with you in about 6 weeks.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of In Therapy, and welcome to the first episode of 2021. One of the things that I was most excited about when we first conceived of In Therapy was being able to follow people's journeys over time. That I think often when traditional TV tries to capture people's inner journeys, it tries to get it in moments. And you find that everything's sort of compressed down to this sort of moment of insight. But the therapeutic journey is often a long process, and often it has different twists and turns. But I think it's great as we're starting to see the real evolution that's going on for Sally, Lauren, and Hannah. And in the coming months, we'll continue to follow them. We've actually just recently filmed Lauren's most recent update. I'm super excited for you to see that in time. If you have questions from this week's episode, please do post them below the video here on YouTube. In my new podcast, Talking Therapy, we take those questions. I can answer them, but also it's an opportunity to go deeper into the ideas and themes that we're exploring in the episodes. Coming up next week, we're going to be catching up again with David. I set David some homework in his last episode around building more awareness around his inner critic. In next week's episode, we're going to get into some practical tools to work with defending against his inner critic. Here's a taste of what's coming up next week. Last time we were talking about your inner critic, and I asked you to sort of go away and spend some time sort of reflecting on it, wondering how that was.
I hadn't realised just how sort of constant it was. I've always had a tendency to sort of escalate quite quickly.
I will be your inner critic. You really should have waited 4 weeks, you dickhead.
Oh, off.